Hey y'all, I'm back with my June and July 2023 reading wrap-ups. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Books with Kimberly. Don't forget to like, comment, share my channel, and subscribe. Y'all, I am so happy to be back. I took a little break because I was outside a little bit, but even though I was outside for a little bit, I still made time to do my favorite thing, which is reading. And I cannot wait to get into these books that I read in the month of June and July. So let's get right into it. In the month of June, I read a total of 4 books. The first book was Is On Hiatus by AC author. I did a full review on this book. This book is about 3 cousins, Sheree, Janelle, and Rita. The book opens up with Rita finding out that her husband is cheating on her and her deciding enough is enough. So we go through a journey of her divorcing her husband, getting feedback from her family and friends, her deciding to put herself first, and that it is time for her to get back to what makes her happy. On the other hand, her cousin Sheree has a new love that is into her life, and she's grieving at the same time, dealing with childhood trauma. This book goes into a lot of family dynamics. I thought it was a really good book. It was very special to me because my sister bought this book for me, and I give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I took off for is I felt like some of the scenes were a little bit repetitive. I wanted more wisdom poured into these cousins from the elders in the family, since family was such a huge part of this book. But overall, I found it entertaining, and I look forward to reading more from AC author. The second book I read in the month of June is also a part of my YA Fantasy Book Number 2 challenge, and that book is The Blood Gift by N.E. Davenport. I added this book to my challenge because last year I read the first book, which was The Blood Trials, and I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to challenge myself to read the second book in this duology. The first book, The Blood Trials, was really good. We got introduced to Ikenna, who is both Canadian and Meridian. Meridian is like being of European descent, and Canadian is being of African descent. This is very rare in Meridian, but Ikenna overcame those prejudices and became a force to be reckoned with in the Blood Trials. Spoiler alert, she did become a Praetorian, and she also found out who killed her grandfather, which was her main goal for becoming a Praetorian. In the Blood Gift, she is full of vengeance. She wants to take down Meridian. She also has a group of Praetorians with her. They're on the run. They are trying to find allies. She is also blood gifted. She has magical powers to defeat her enemies. And a lot was happening in this book. And I'm going to be honest, I struggled to pay attention. Nothing spoke to me. Nothing grabbed out to me. Nothing was entertaining. I give this book 2 stars. I did not enjoy it at all. It was a lot of war talk that I did not care about. And then the main character, who the whole book is focused on her, I love this comment that somebody said on Goodreads. It's like she was set up to be too good to fail. It really just came off like she didn't even need her team. They weren't even in a lot of the scenes. A lot of the battles she handled by herself. A lot of the negotiations with allies, it was all her. The characters just seemed to not have their time to shine. There weren't any subplots really. She has one romantic interest. They decide to make it official. But I'm telling you, it was one drawn out Alexandria house steamy scene at the beginning, and then their relationship was nothing for the rest of the book because he went back to being in the background of her. So again, I gave this book 2 stars. It wasn't it for me. The third book I read in the month of June is A Walk in the Park by Rebekah Weatherspoon. Y'all, this was a novella, and it was so cute. One of my favorite things about this story is that the main female character, Janelle, is a plus-size woman, and Andre, her love interest, is a bigger guy. I have never read a book where the main male character is a bigger guy. Like, this was a first for me. I'm used to them always being muscular and chiseled, fit, fine, which I ain't got no problem with. It's nice to see some diversity with men as well. This book is about Andre and Janelle, who are both excited to go to this animal shelter because they have adopted a dog. Little do they know, when they get to this animal shelter, it is in chaos because there was an employee there who went rogue and assigned dogs and animals to several owners. So both Janelle and Andre end up okay to adopt the same dog, which is Zeus. They debate who's going to bring Zeus home, who is the better parent for Zeus, and at the end of the day, they decide to share custody of Zeus. And the two of them, of course, spark romantic interest within each other. They get it on. They end up being great parents for Zeus, and they spark a new relationship. I thought this was super cute. I give it 4 stars. I must admit, you guys, I am not the biggest animal fan. So it was a lot of dog talk for me, a little bit too much, and I would have liked it to be more about Janelle and Andre and them building a relationship. And also, because this book is a novella, it was very short and quick and to the point. And so I'm giving it 4 stars just because I wanted more and I wanted a little less dog talk. But that's just me. The last book that I read in the month of June, ooh y'all, it was a good one. House of Eve by Sadeqa Johnson. After reading The Yellow Wife by Sadeqa Johnson, I could not wait to get into House of Eve. And y'all, this book did not disappoint. Sis did it again. Another historical fiction book. And as a girl who's not big on historical fiction, I absolutely love that she has been able to really draw me in and have me stuck. This book is told from 2 different perspectives. We get introduced to both Ruby and Eleanor in the year 1948. Ruby is living in Philadelphia. Eleanor is living in DC, attending Howard University. Ruby is a teenage girl. She is living impoverished. Her and her mother have a strained relationship. She gets kicked out, has to live with her aunt. She's trying to get to this weekend scholarship program so that she can get a scholarship and become a doctor. On the other hand, we have Eleanor, who is like in her 2nd year at Howard University. We get to see them both take on romantic relationships. Ruby's relationship is a lot more risky because she falls for a white Jewish boy named Shimmy. And by this book taking place in 1948, it is definitely frowned upon for Black and white people to be dating each other. It's in secret. It's risky. If they get caught, it could be major consequences for the both of them. On the other hand, Eleanor starts a relationship with a man who is a graduate student in a doctoral program, becoming a medical doctor at Howard University. This is a more acceptable relationship, as you would think, but come to find out, because she comes from the wrong side of the tracks, and because of her skin color, she does not fit in with this very elite Black family. They are doctors and lawyers, and they have a lot of money, and they come from wealth. And these are the Black people who have really made something of themselves. And they frown upon people like Eleanor, who come from humble, small Black, low to middle class families. This book was so good, y'all. It talked about so many themes. Colorism, elitism. I love that it even ties into The Yellow Wife, which I told y'all I enjoyed that book as well. It was just so good. And I do not want to spoil too much, but I will tell you that this book spoke about pregnancy as well. And I love that Sadeqa really went there on how scary it is for young Black women in this time and even still today, but specifically in 1948, for young Black women to become pregnant, and how that can change everything. Now, even though it takes two to become pregnant, a lot of the burden is put on the young Black woman. It's her fault. She has to handle it. She has to figure out what those options are and which option she's going to take. And I really love where this book went. I was a little bit impatient because the whole time I was trying to figure out what the connection would be between Eleanor and Ruby. This book was amazing, y'all. I give it 5 stars, and I cannot wait to read more from this author. Now, let's get into the books that I read in the month of July. In July, I was outside a little bit, so I only got to read 3 books. The first book I read in the month of July was a ebook, and that is This Poison Heart by Kalynn Bayron. If y'all have been sticking with books with Kimberly for some time now, y'all know I spoke of Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron a year or 2 ago, and I did not like this book. I did not like it at all. And so I was very hesitant to read this book, but I was pleasantly surprised by it. I really enjoyed the opening of this book, getting introduced to Bree. Precise was the main character. This book is about a young teenager, 16, 17 years old, living in New York, is present day. She has magical abilities to grow plants, which I think is super cool. And it's like plants are drawn to her and they sense her and want to be near her. Bree is adopted by her moms. She calls one Mom and the other one Mo, which is short for mom or mother. So Mom and Mo. And they support her. They know about her gift. And so she gets a phone call one day that her biological aunt has passed away and left her a home in Rhinebeck, New York. And so they go to this mysterious big house where there's a garden, and this garden has a lot of poisonous plants, which we find out in the book that Bree has the ability to touch poison plants and not break out in hives or rashes or not get sick. She's uncovering some of the mysteries of this home, of this family, and I thought it was a pretty good book. I had gotten to about halfway through this book and did not know what it was about, besides her having these magical abilities, her having this house. And I did not care because I just enjoyed her joking around with her moms, her making a new friend. It was just so many Black references from her moms. They would call her the Black Sleeping Beauty, the Black Poison Ivy. She makes a new friend, Carter, and they compare him to Trevante Rose, which if y'all don't know who Trevante Rose, Google him because that man is fine. There was a moment when they just say, "You are the epitome of Black girl magic." And I was like, yes. The action starts towards the end of the book. We get a little action. She's getting attacked. We find out about the poison heart, which is this plant that people want to get their hands on because it has the ability to give people immortality. There's also Greek mythology mixed into the book, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. Yes, Greek mythology is interesting, but it wasn't a good marriage to me. I was expecting the roots of her magical abilities. I thought it would come from another source rather than it coming from Greek mythology. And I will say that lost me a little bit. So even though towards the end of the book, the action got there, we get what the plot is, and this plot is what carries on to the second book that I'm currently reading, which is This Wicked Fate. So I give this book 3 stars. I'm taking off because the plot that we didn't find out to the very, very end of the book, it was not giving what it needed to give, in my opinion. The second book that I read in the month of July was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I had been hearing about the Lunar Chronicles for some time now and finally decided to give Cinder a try. I loved it, y'all. Cinder is a cyborg. She's half human, half robot. She has like robotic leg and a robotic arm. And it's based off of the story of Cinderella. Get it? Her name is Cinder. She lives at home with an evil stepmom. One of her stepsisters she likes, and the other one is really mean to her. And there is this Prince Kai, who she's a mechanic, and he uses her services to fix one of his androids. So it's this very futuristic dystopian. It takes place in the Commonwealth of Japan. I really liked a lot about this book. I gave it 3 stars, even though I really liked it, because this first book, it is one of many. This first book is very slow. It's all about Cinder. But in the next books, which I am currently reading, you get Cinder's story, but you also get other characters as well. So in this book, with it being all about Cinder, it did drag a little bit. It wasn't as plot heavy as I would have liked. It was a lot of repetitive scenes, but it gets better as the books go on. The last book that I read in the month of July was The Perfect Find by Tia Williams, which I'm so excited because I will be doing a standalone book review where I will be comparing the book versus the Netflix movie The Perfect Find, which stars Gabrielle Union and Keith Powers. The Perfect Find was a really good book. I gave it 3.5 stars, which I am going to round it up to 4 stars. This book is basically about Jenna. Jenna is fresh off a breakup. She's back into her career after she took a year off to just get herself together. One night when she's out with her friends, she kisses this young guy, and the next day when she gets to work, she finds out he is her boss's son. And so this whole book, the two of them are bickering and acting like they don't like each other, and finally they do come together and start a romantic relationship. But it's just a lot of ups and downs, because in the book, the main character, Eric, he is 22 years old. Jenna is 40. This is a big age gap. And the two of them are in different places in their lives. He's fresh out of grad school, ready to start his career in the filmmaking industry. She is 40 years old, ready for marriage and children. So here she is. She meets this young 22-year-old guy. And yes, they have fun and they have a lot of sparks and chemistry, but she's really trying to figure out, is this a viable candidate for a life partner? I thought this book was really, really interesting. The biggest reason why I gave this book 3.5 stars is just, when I read romantic books, I really love to root for the romantic couple. And this was a book that the whole time I was kind of like, sis, she might need to leave him alone. He's 22 years old. He don't want marriage and kids. You might really need to leave him alone. It was like hammered on this age difference. He's 22. He's so young. He wants completely different things from Jenna. It really made it hard for me to buy into Jenna and Eric having a relationship. Y'all, that's it for the books I read in the months of June and July. Get down in the comments and let me know what books you've been reading this summer, and if you've read any of the books that I talked about today. Thank you again for tuning in to a Books with Kimberly video.